Hey, house guests, welcome to today's Big Brother 24 updates and spoilers. Woo! Here I was thinking that this last week of Big Brother was going to be tame. They're just going to be playing spades and like doing their tie dye, but no. We have a lot to discuss today. It has been a busy weekend. Oh my god. Okay, our house guest of the day is Evil Zank 44. Thank you so much for the support as always. We really do appreciate it. And if you guys want to be house guests of the day, check out our Patreon link in the info box below. We still got a couple more days. Woo! And before we get started, I also want to thank our super chatters from Saturday because it's another fantastic way to support our channel. So Laura G, Mary Ellen Ludwig, Norm the Cat, Holly M, Kristen Leach, Arjun Wrights, Sean Davis, Dean Thomas, Kenny D, Kevin Charles, the CAC 16, and Laura Warden. Oh, Laura, we didn't get you last time because it came in after the stream ended, but thank you so much for your super chat. I think the CAC 16 too. That was after the show ended. So thank you guys. We really appreciate it. Yay. And I see we have some super chatters today. Norm the Cat, thank you so much as always. Jody Cortez, thank you so much. Jody says crazy weekend. Yeah. We'll get there. Kay Davis, thank you so much. And Kay says, trouble in Monte Paradise already? Ugh, I'm exhausted. Me too. A little spoiler for the spoiler. Yeah, Monty and Taylor already pretty much broken up, which is wild. I feel like maybe it's a record. And who knew at the beginning of the season that we would have not one, but two showmances break up during the season? Like, what is happening in this house? I feel like it's just been absolutely wild this season. But anyway, we'll get to all that. We have some other things to discuss first. So when we left off, Turner and Brittany up on the block, right? Yeah, it does remind me of the cat Jackson Mickey thing. But anyway, Turner and Brittany up on the block. And Taylor's the HOH. We know Monty is the POV holder, and Monty will be the sole vote to evict this week. So he wants to keep Turner. He has already told Turner that he's keeping him. He knows that Turner and Taylor would likely both take him to the final two if he doesn't win the final HOH himself. On the other hand, if he keeps Brittany around, Brittany and Taylor would both take each other to final two, not Monty. So Monty would have to win that final HOH to get himself there. And that's exactly why Taylor wants to keep Brittany, because they would take each other to the end. If Brittany says Taylor would be in that position of having either person take her to the end. And Taylor is still thinking that there is the possibility that she can convince Monty to keep Brittany. I mean, stay positive, right? But all right. So let's talk about Saturday afternoon. There wasn't a ton going on Saturday, but there are a few things that I want to talk about. Brittany was working on what she's going to pitch to Monty. She really wants to appeal to his logic and reasoning. She knows who she's working with at this point, right? She knows that that's what Monty wants to hear about. So she's got this huge plan. She's planning to use M&Ms to make all sorts of like graphs showing how each of the remaining house guests did in all of the competitions, like all 25 competitions throughout the season. So she's got different M&Ms designated for like this color is for if you didn't compete in this competition. This one is if you place like second place. This one, so she's got like all sorts of stuff here. And this is a very data driven and tedious pitch, honestly. But the goal here is to give this visual aid to just basically like slap Monty in the face with this and make him see that Monty would have a much easier time beating Brittany in the final competitions than he would against Turner. Because it's one thing to like look at everybody's competition wins, but she's also trying to get him to see, you know, how close was everyone in all of these other competitions? Were they in like second, third place? Were they all the way at the bottom? So she wants to show Monty all of that. And she says it makes more sense to compete against me than Turner, unless Monty wants to go to the end with Turner. But she says that would just be so much more of a toss-up if he goes to the end with Turner, because I feel like, yeah, Turner and Monty, it could be a very close vote between the two of them. So, Brittany did not end up presenting this pitch on Saturday. She didn't get the chance. I think she actually asked Monty to talk at one point, but he was like, I gotta go exercise. So that didn't happen that day. But we will get to a Brittany pitch at the end of the spoiler. So then Saturday night, Big Brother gave them some wine and a tie-dye kit, and that kept everyone busy for a few hours. And honestly, the tie-dye came out great. It was very chill and relaxing to watch, and they did a really good job on their tie-dye, and it actually inspired me to wear some tie-dye today. And now I'm like, I got some leftover tie-dye materials, supplies, whatever. I want to do some of that too. So anyway, at one point on Saturday night, Taylor and Monty had a moment alone in the kitchen, and they're like kissing and being showmantic. But Monty was kind of nervous. What if Brittany or Turner walk in and they see this? Because at that point, nobody knows about the showmance, right? Now Turner does, but we'll get there. So Taylor's asking Monty, are you like serious about going to the final two with me? Is that for real? And Monty says, he is. He says, I've said it once, I'll say it again. What must I say, woman? Ugh, not woman. Monty. Blech. I've been getting vibes from Monty on and off all season, and yeah. Anyway, Taylor's like, I'm just in my head at this point. I'm thinking about last season, how Xavier had a bunch of final two deals, and you know, kind of thinking that could be possible here too. I mean, Brittany and Taylor have been suspecting for a while now that Monty could have a final two deal with Turner. Yeah. So Monty's like, no, I haven't promised Turner final two. Sir, that is a lie. But anyway, after Brittany went to bed that night, Turner, Monty, and Taylor were all still awake, and they renamed their final three alliance BBC, Breakfast Burrito Club. Okay. Formerly, they were the guys, girls, guys, whatever, two guys, one girl, I don't know, but now they're BBC Breakfast Burrito Club. Not to be confused with the broadcasting network, BBC, or last season's Big Blue Couch. They're like soap opera. That was a lot of fun. But I just want you to keep in mind here, Taylor is going along with this final three talk with Turner and Monty in front of Turner. But she very much still would prefer for Brittany to stay. She just doesn't know if she could convince Monty to do it. Okay, so let's talk about Sunday. Taylor and Monty are chatting in the HOH room. I think this was like early afternoon. I think it was like 12 something. And Taylor says, I'm still being lied to this week. No one has owned up to voting me out last week. Everyone is just operating this week as if no one tried to vote me out. And it's really weird. So Monty is making the case here for why it was not Turner. We know it wasn't Turner, right? But we saw in last night's episode that Taylor is not really sure who's lying at this point, which was it was a big surprise to me because I thought she knew for sure that Brittany was the one that flipped, and she was just kind of like being like, I don't know what's happening, just because she still planned on going to the end with Brittany and she didn't want to make a big deal of it. But apparently she really does not know who flipped here. So Monty is saying Turner was very transparent with us last week about how he was not happy with Alyssa trying to guilt him and get his vote. Like she was putting on the guilt trip. And Turner kept confirming with us that he wanted to go to the final three. And he told us when Brittany tried to get him to flip his vote the night before. And Monty says it just wouldn't make sense for Turner to flip at the last minute like that, given everything they saw from him last week. On the other hand, Monty says Brittany was acting shady all last week, threatening Monty about jury votes if he didn't put Turner up on the block. And Monty says it makes sense from a game perspective for Brittany to have wanted Taylor out last week. Taylor is a stronger competitor than Alyssa, and he says, look at how things turned out. If you were not here, Brittany would have won that HOH competition, and she would have a guaranteed spot in the final three. So, of course, she would have wanted you out. And even after all that, Taylor's like, yeah, but like Turner, she's still thinking it could have been Turner. Oh my God. So Monty is pushing, no, Brittany wanted Alyssa to stay. She wanted to go to the end with Alyssa, which is true. All right, so then Turner joins them, and they're all wondering, when is this POV ceremony gonna be? It should be live on Thursday. That's usually how they do it. This week is a little bit different than other seasons because this week is usually a shorter week and everything is screwed up right now because there's no Wednesday episode. Um so that's like messing things up. There's usually not this long of a gap between the POV competition and the final four eviction. Usually it's shorter, but this week is really weird. So they're trying to figure out like when is this going to happen. Taylor brings up to Turner that Brittany still hasn't said anything about that vote to evict her, except like, oh my god, I can't believe that Turner's lying about his vote. So Turner says, after this season is over, I will put the clip of Brittany voting Taylor out in our cast's group chat so everyone can see it. I mean, yeah, let's get that group chat popping, right? So anyway, a little later, Taylor, Monty, and Brittany. I don't know if Turner was in there or not. I'm not sure, but Brittany was at least in there. They were chilling in the HOH room, and Monty and Taylor are both on the bed. Monty is wearing the headphones, listening to Taylor's music. And Monty starts snoring. He is clearly sleeping at this point. So when Taylor realizes this, she hears him snoring and she like turns over and starts pulling the headphones off of Monty's head. And in the process, she also pulls off his sunglasses and wakes him up. So Brittany's like, "Whew, that is a way to wake up." And Taylor's like, "My bad." And then she tells Monty, like, "Go back to sleep. My music, disrespectful, all up in my room, taking my music, falling asleep, like sleeping in my bed." So keep this incident in mind because it is gonna blow up in a little bit. My take on the situation, it seemed like Taylor was definitely playing around, but the delivery did seem bratty. I do not think that it deserved the response that she got later from Monty. We will get there. Oh my god, it was a lot. But anyway, but first, before we get to that, Taylor is monologuing to the cameras in the backyard, and she says, "This man, Monty, is giving me the most difficult path to the end here." She knows that Monty wants to keep Turner this week. And she says, "If that is what happens, I have no choice but to win all of the remaining competitions because I'm going to have to get myself to the final two potentially." She says, "I need to be studying every single day, convince Monty if he wins to take me to the final two." And she says, "I'm just going to be staring at that memory wall every day, going over everyone's scorecard throughout the season so that she can, rock it out in part 3 of the final HOH Cop, should she get there." So Taylor also notes, if Brittany goes this week, it could be better for Taylor's jury management because she'll have somebody in there advocating for her. I think she actually has a lot of people rooting for her in the jury house at this point. I don't think she realizes how many people would get behind her. But she knows if Brittany goes, it is going to be a harder path for her to get to the final two. More competition in these competitions, and also Brittany, I think, is the only person left who would absolutely take Taylor to the end, other than Taylor. But again, Taylor is saying at least Brittany leaves good for my jury management, I guess. All right. Meanwhile, Monty and Turner are chatting outside. Oh my god. And Monty brings up, oh, sorry, did I say outside? I meant inside. I think they were in the kitchen at the time. Monty brings up the headphones incident, headphone gate, if you will. So Monty's like, "I don't know why Taylor had to go to that extent. I had to go work out after because if I were to explain how I actually felt, it could have gotten ugly." Oh my god. So Monty says, "I have a very short tolerance for shit like that. She was on a power trip of some sort." And Turner says he kind of read it the same way, which definitely empowers Monty in his thinking. He's like, okay, it's not just me who saw that. Uh it's a lot. Anyway, so then Monty says, I think that Taylor just gets ahead of herself with wanting to be this cold-hearted B word. I did not edit that. That is how Monty said that. B word. Cold-hearted B word. He says it's like there's two sides of her. One day she'll be super nice and super vulnerable, but when she's comfortable in the house, she becomes more of the cold-hearted person. So Turner's like, "All right, you mind if I ask you a question real quick?" And Monty's like, "I already know what you're going to ask. Yes, Taylor and I have been hooking up." So Monty just straight up, he knows what's coming. So he admits to it. And Turner's like, "Okay, cool. That's dope. I have no problem with it. I'm just asking you like on a homie level." Um, you have to think though that this is going to make Turner wonder, is Monty going to bring me to the final two? Or would he pick Taylor over me if they have some sort of showmance going on right now? But Turner's like, "No, I have no problem with it. Cool." Monty says he's been wanting to talk to Turner about it and vents to him about it. And Monty's talking about like how this came to be. It was just last week. He could tell that Taylor was down. And he says we both acted upon a mutual attraction. So Turner's like, "Okay, I was wondering like how much I should go up to the HOH room when I knew that both of you were in there because I didn't want to like interrupt anything." Yeah. There was some stuff going down in that HOH room for sure. But Monty says, "Yeah, normally I'm a very private person. I like to keep that kind of stuff under wraps for the most part, even though thousands of people have been watching us on the live feeds." And he says, "Yeah, it's been fun." But you can tell that Monty is not having fun in this moment. So Turner asks, just out of curiosity, "Do you think that this relationship is going to continue after the show?" And Monty says, "I don't know, like stuff like today just makes me realize." And he says, "This is something that I talked to the therapist about, the like in-house therapist." Um, he says, "I have this internal conflict. I have some things biologically happening." He tells Turner, "I'm sure you understand." AKA, he's horny. Horny. Um, Monty says, "I had that struggle and I acted upon it." But did I feel like it was with the person that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with? And he says, "To be honest with you, that's a no. It's not something that I'd be sure of right now." And then he says, "It would take some very long conversations and some very honest conversations about how I feel Taylor presents herself to people or to me in public, but then in private is something completely different." Ugh, that sounds very like controlling and gross. I'm like, bleh. But Monty says he just doesn't like that dichotomy. He feels like Taylor is acting one way in front of everybody and another way with just him. So I'm sorry. Is it just me? Or does it seem like Monty is kind of like grasping at straws here and looking for a reason to go back on his promise to go to the final two with Taylor? Because, like, for a long time now, he's been planning on going with Turner. And then, like, in the last few days, when he started hooking up with Taylor, he was saying, "Yeah, I would go to the final two with you." But, like, all along, he's really wanted this final two with Turner. So now he's looking for, like, a way to get out of it, a way to blame it on Taylor. And honestly, I think it would crush Monty's ego to potentially lose to Taylor. He wouldn't be as upset if he went with his BFF Turner and lost to Turner. But if he lost to Taylor, I think it would really be a blow to his ego. So, and he's not going to say all of that, but that's what I'm sensing and seeing here. So it sounds like, from what Monty is now saying to Turner, that he wants to break up with Taylor, but he doesn't want to look like an a-hole. So Turner's like, "Oh, you might not even have to worry about that, like, after a few days from now, because you guys are gonna be in different parts of the country once the show is over. Like, it's gonna be fine." So Monty's like, "Yeah, that's the same thing that the therapist told me. So it feels good to hear that coming from you as well." So Monty says he's not really sure how to handle this situation. He feels like, as a man, he's criminalized for things like this all the time. Like, he doesn't know like, he just feels like anything he does in this situation, he's gonna get criticism. So, he's asking, like, "Do I distance myself from Taylor? Like, what do I do?" So Turner says, "At least there bleh." He says, "At least there's only a few days left, right? And at least this isn't like the Kyle and Alyssa situation because that had, like, whole other levels to it that made things really awkward." So, okay. Later, and Monty had a few other conversations with Turner throughout the evening about Taylor. And this is all before he actually confronted Taylor about any of this. But at one point too, Monty like moved his stuff out of the HOH bathroom and he's like, I think that's gonna like send a message that, I don't wanna make this go any further with Taylor. All right. So later, Taylor and Monty are chatting in the backyard, and at this point, Taylor is not aware that Monty is upset with her. He has not shared that yet. So they have a little game chat, and Monty's asking Taylor, "What are you thinking?" And Taylor says, "I guess I'm just wondering, if you're so locked in with me for final two, like you're saying you are, why make the journey to the end more difficult than it has to be?" She says, "I just see Turner as more of a competitive threat to you and me making it to the end together." So she's saying, like, if it's her, Monty, and Brittany, they can both beat Brittany and make it to the end together. Now we know that Taylor would definitely pick Brittany over Monty, but she's not saying that to Monty. Um, and if Turner's there, he's a disruptor. He could win one of the competitions, and then only one of them would go to the end with him. So Monty's like, "Oh, you think that he's a competitive threat? Like, what, based off of his 3 HOHs? Yeah, that's fair." So Taylor says, "At this point, I'm not thinking about who I can trust as far as who should stay this week. Obviously, Brittany is pretty shady, but she's thinking about who she can beat moving forward, and she feels like they would have a better chance of beating Brittany." So she says, "Just so you know, I am locked in for final two with you, not Brittany." That's a lie. But she says, again, if we're both working against her, we can both get to the final two together. So Monty's like, "You don't think that you can beat Turner?" And Taylor says it would be significantly more difficult to go up against Turner in competitions than Brittany. Um, so then Monty argues that Brittany is going to be better in the mental competitions. And he says, everybody knows part one is usually endurance, right? Some form of endurance. Part two is a combination of mental and physical. And then part three is pretty much always some sort of mental competition. So he says, part three, that's like the most important competition, right? Whoever wins that is deciding who else goes to the final two. So he is afraid that if Brittany gets to part three, she is going to win that. In the last few seasons, it's been like a days competition, knowing how many things people have won, did this happen before this, all that crazy stuff. And he feels like Brittany has a better grasp on all of that than Turner. He says this competition would be a weak point for Turner because he hasn't been studying as much as Brittany. So then Brittany comes outside and ends that conversation. After a few minutes, Monty goes inside, so now Brittany and Taylor are alone. And Taylor lets Brittany know, "I'm working on Monty. I'm trying. I'm doing my best." And Brittany asks, "Any progress on that front?" And Taylor says, "At this point, we're going back and forth on who's going to be a bigger threat in a mental competition. That is something that Monty's really worried about." So Brittany's asking, like, are there any points that I should be ready for when I talk to him? Stuff that I could counter. And Taylor says, like I just said, the biggest point here seems to be Monty's nervous that you're going to be a bigger threat in a mental competition than Turner would be. So Brittany's like, "I might not even get to part three. I'd have to get past part one or part two first." And she's not like super confident in part one. And then part two, who knows? So then Brittany is telling Taylor about her plan to chat with Monty about her M&M graphs. She's really thinking that the visual aid will convince Monty that she would be easier to beat in competitions. So before she could like really get into detail about all that, Monty rejoins them, and that's the end of that conversation. All right. Later, Brittany and Taylor are chatting again. This time they're up in the HOH room. And Brittany is now thinking, maybe I shouldn't do this Eminem pitch for Monty. She feels like it's going to show what a mental threat she is. And she knows now that that's exactly what Monty is worried about. So she doesn't want to like dig her own grave here with her campaign. She says it sucks because it is my strongest argument. She really feels like it's a catch 22 at this point. So Brittany says, I really need to figure out how to convince Monty to keep me without showing that I'm a mental threat. So then Brittany clocks. She says, I'm not saying that this is what Monty's feeling, but it seems like it's a general rule in life that as soon as a woman shows that they're remotely strong in something, everyone's like, oh my gosh, she's so smart. Threat, threat, threat. But when it's a man, it's like, well, I don't know. Like maybe they're not so bad. Thank you. I mean, I feel like she really is onto something there for sure. And that does seem to be a thing with Monty. So Brittany wants to know, why is Monty so threatened by her on a competitive level? She says she doesn't feel like Monty is seeing that he's not going to beat Turner in the end. She feels like if Monty and Turner are in the final two together, Turner's going to have a better argument for the jury. He has put himself at risk more. He's made bigger, flashier moves. I mean, his moves have really changed the trajectory of the game multiple times. So I do see Turner being able to make a really good argument for himself. His jury management, not as good as Monty, but it really depends on like what kind of jury that we're working with here. So then going back to the M&Ms thing, they consider the option of maybe Taylor showing Monty the M&M graphs. But with this, Brittany is worried if Taylor starts pushing too hard for Brittany to stay, that could backfire. And it could make Monty want Brittany to go even more. Absolutely. Especially with what's going on now between Monty and Taylor. Monty is not going to want to do Taylor's bidding. No freaking way. So later, Brittany does end up walking Taylor through the M&M pitch, just so, maybe she could potentially present it to Monty. And today, she delivered the M&M graphs to Taylor's HOH room. She said, I got the goods. Okay. So back to last night. At one point, Taylor was alone in the HOH room and she's got her own candy thing going, trying to figure out like how the jury would vote in various situations. And she says out loud, I have to be getting played by them, meaning Monty and Turner, meaning they must have a final two deal and they are lying about it. Taylor says, Monty is not stupid. I have to be getting played by them. I mean, yeah, this should have been glaringly obvious when Monty put up Taylor as the replacement nominee instead of Turner last week. I mean, that's a huge giveaway, right? Right? Okay. So, late last night, Monty basically broke up with Taylor. He was talking to her in the HOH room while she was taking a bath. And it kind of like bothers me when this kind of conversation is had when somebody is in a bathtub, because how awkward is that? They're so vulnerable in that moment. It's hard for them to like get out of that, because you have to like get out of the water and it's like a whole thing. Also, I just feel like it would be really uncomfortable physically because she's sitting in this bathtub. It's got to be getting cold, right? This conversation was very long. But anyway, yeah, the feeds were not on for the beginning of this conversation. They were showing something else. And when the feed switch over to them, these two are discussing another issue that Monty is not happy about. So earlier in the day, I want to say it was around 1 o'clock p.m., Big Brother time, Monty was in the HOH room with Taylor and Turner, and he was talking about his goddaughter and saying how cool it is that he's been able to watch her grow for the last year, like from when she was born to now. And Taylor said something along the lines of like, not really, like it wasn't a full year. You've been in this house for like 3 months now, so it wasn't a full year. So Monty did not like that. He tells Taylor now, I feel like that was unnecessary and insensitive. I felt that the tone was condescending. It was rude. I don't deserve to be spoken to that way. What? I'm sorry. This seems like really extreme. I don't know if this is like something that he feels guilty about, that he's been away from his goddaughter and like, hearing that what seemed like a joke from Taylor really set him off, but he was not happy about it. So they talk about that a bit. Taylor thanks him for coming to her directly about this, which he did not. He was talking crap about Taylor about this with Turner multiple times before he went to Taylor. But anyway, Taylor apologizes for the comment, also apologizes for the headphones incident, which I guess they had already discussed before the feed switched over to them. And Monty is talking about how he's seen the warmer side of Taylor recently since they've become intimate. And then he feels like she reverted back to this other side that he saw earlier in the game. So he's really confused when this happened. So Taylor starts explaining she thinks maybe subconsciously she was trying to put distance between them, in front of Brittany and Turner. She doesn't want everyone to see how close they are. At that point, the showmance was still a secret. And she says, I do not want my game to be defined by a guy. So then she starts crying. She's getting really emotional, talking about her game so far and how all these big events in her game have involved a man, right? I mean, either positive or negative. There was Daniel freaking out at her, yelling at her, and then everybody like rallies around her. They form the leftovers. There is, Turner saving her when he was HOH. Everybody wanted him to go after her, and he said, no, I'm not going to do it. There is her and Joseph forming the Fomance so that she would be able to just talk to other people and not be criticized for it. And now, she's like, I've been getting close to you this past week, and I do not want my game being defined by this either. So she thinks that maybe it was her way of putting distance between them, so that she can stand on her own 2 feet. But she's apologizing again to Monty. She says it really was not my intention to hurt your feelings. I'm so sorry. So this conversation goes on for a long time. It was like over an hour. But Monty is bringing up all this other stuff that bothers him about Taylor. Oh my God. So he says, I want you to know I've noticed, and I think maybe other people have noticed too. He says your coldness increases when you're safe in this game. You're more condescending. There's less love and communication. Dude, I'm sorry. This is called HOH-itis, and everyone this season has pretty much had it. Everyone in every season pretty much has it. It's a lot. But this is just really rich coming from Monty when he has done like the exact same thing. So he's going on and on about that, the coldness, the cold-heartedness. Eventually, they talk about how they want to get to know each other better as friends because they agree that they jumped in too fast with the physical aspect of things, right? I mean, 1 second they're just like friends and then they're like sleeping together every night. It's pretty fast, right? So Monty decides he's going to set some boundaries. He does not want to sleep in the HOH room anymore. So by the end of this combo, Taylor's saying like, yeah, I want to respect your boundaries for sure, but could you like come over here and give me a kiss before you go back downstairs? Taylor, no, stop. So they kiss like a bunch of times and then thankfully that's it. But like, why do this? Why? So later, Taylor is alone in the HOH room and she says, this whole bitch narrative is so overrated. Lame, boo, boring. So I think she's pretty disappointed to be hearing this from Monty again. So anyway, that was all last night. Today, and I just have to say that conversation was so frustrating to listen to because it really felt like Monty was like lecturing Taylor and talking down to her. And it really does just seem like he's looking for any excuse to go back on his deal with her because he wants to go to the end with Turner, not her. All right. So today, Brittany made a pitch to Monty on the backyard balcony, and it did not include the M&M graphs. she abandoned that. She delivered the graphs to Taylor. Maybe she'll make something of that. I don't know. But Brittany's got some other stuff to discuss. So let's go through some of her points. And as we get going here, I just want to mention Monty was just like, through most of this. He didn't really have much to say. He was just letting her do her thing. So Brittany says, I want to approach this in an unbiased manner. She says, this is what podcasters around the world are talking about. They're having conversations like this, like looking at every side of everything. Oh, Brittany. I have to say, she sounded a little frantic in this conversation. And that's coming from somebody else who often sounds frantic. So it was very like, yeah. She brings up Turner, obviously, and she's saying like we can go through the pros and cons, and she's like the pros, I don't really know. I'd have to like think about that a bit. But she does have some cons to offer up about Turner. So she says, all right, Monty, if you make it to the final two, the jury's going to be asking what moves you've made in this game. And if you're there against Turner, you and Turner have pretty similar games. You guys were both like founding members of the Leftovers. You made a lot of moves together. You both worked together to take out Michael. But she says overall, I see Turner as having made bigger moves throughout this game. I mean, he took out Amira, Kyle. He was the HOH when Michael was evicted, even though you were the veto holder. If you look at your resume, you've taken out Alyssa. If Turner's still there, then you would have taken out me. He got out Nicole on his first HOH. So Brittany says she feels like the vote could be pretty close between Monty and Turner. And she's thinking that Turner would end up winning. So she's also bringing up, if you go to the end with Turner, the jury will notice that you had multiple chances to take Turner out and you didn't go for it. You didn't go for the bigger player. So that might be something that they take into consideration. You know, Turner was able to survive after making those huge game moves. So Brittany, I mean, she's making some points here. So then Brittany brings up what she's heard is a concern for Monty, the mental competitions. And she tells Monty, you've beaten me in a lot of competitions. Turner and I have been pretty even in the mental comps, and this made me so sad. She was like, I'm kind of like an overweight, out of shape Turner. So do you want to go up against an overweight Turner or a normal Turner in these last few competitions? Oh, Brittany, no. That's so sad. But she's really going for it here. So she says, look, you're going to have an easier path to the end against me than you would against Turner. So eventually Monty brings up his big concern here. He says, I see what you're saying, but also if you're still here, you and Taylor would take each other to the end, not me. But if I keep Turner, I'm almost 100% going to be going to the final two, no matter who wins that last HOH. So Brittany's like, okay, but Turner has kind of been known this season to just like flip on people that he's super, super close with. I mean, we've seen it with Michael. We've seen it with Alyssa. He does that. And Turner might end up doing that to you right at the end, because maybe he will take the chance to take out the biggest player other than him. I gotta say, good for Brittany for trying. She was making a lot of really good points, but like this campaign is not going to sway Monty at this point. I don't see anything really swaying Monty. I think Monty is set on taking Turner. He has been set on that for a while now, and that's just what it's going to be. So after, he does tell Brittany like, oh, I have to think about it, but like, no. All right. So after, Monty is spilling to Turner all about Brittany's campaign. He's telling Turner all about his breakup conversation with Taylor from the night before. It's just further like reaffirming he is taking Turner to the final three. So we've got 3 days left until the eviction. I don't know how much campaigning is going to happen over the next few days. I don't know if Taylor will attempt to do Monty's if Taylor will attempt to do Brittany's Eminem graph pitch to Monty, or if they're just going to let that go.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hello. But I believe Brittany does realize that pitch to Monty did not do the trick. She knows that it's still not looking great for her at this point. Right, Bubble?
Yeah.
All right. So I want to thank all of our super chatters today because we really appreciate your support. Norm the Cat, thank you so much. Jody Cortez, thank you so much. Bowie, Kay Davis, thank you so much. Sean Davis, are you guys related? Sean Davis, thank you so much for your super chat. And Sean says, yeah, Monty is back in the gutter again. The whole headphone incident wasn't that serious and then decides to cry to Turner like a baby. The way he speaks about women is still concerning. I know. We've been seeing like bits and pieces of this all season. I mean, right in the beginning, we saw the way that he was talking about Taylor, especially with Paloma. And then we would see it flare up again when he's talking to Terrence about Taylor.
Didn't he call her a hoe?
Well, Terrence did. I don't know if Monty did specifically, but Monty said a lot of stuff about Taylor throughout the season. And then, it looked like maybe he turned a corner, but then like it's back again and it's not good.
He fell through the stage like Post Malone.
Post Malone, yeah. Hey, just give him a beer and he'll get right back out there.
Yeah.
Shane Wright, thank you so much for the super chat. Christine, thank you so much. And Christine says, not Monty's misogyny showing. It sure is. Archan1785, thank you so much. And sorry, ARChan. ARChan says, thanks for all you and your mother do. At least everyone that's left are strategizing. Tough decisions, game, or loyalty. First of all, thank you. Second of all, yeah, I feel like we were blessed this season with a really interesting Final Four. Honestly, like they took out a bunch of the duds early in the season, and we got to see some really good gameplay throughout the season. So that was excellent. But yeah, they're doing the darn thing. Tara Perucci, thank you so much for the super chat. And Tara says, thanks for all you and your mom do. Oh, thank you. Always enjoy watching you both. Out of curiosity, if you could have picked a final three, who would you have picked? Like, who would I want to see, like, just for funsies and stuff? Let me see. I mean, Michael, I think. I mean, I'm pretty happy that Taylor made it. I really enjoyed watching Joseph. I would have loved to have seen him go further in the game. I thought he had a lot of fight and he had a lot of good ideas.
Turner.
Oh yeah, Turner. I love Turner in this season. I guess that's more than 3, but honestly too, I really hope that Brittany is able to get enough money so that she can start her family. It was making me so sad yesterday. She was talking to the cameras at one point about how she's really kind of linked her fate in this game with whether or not she's going to be able to have a family. And that just made me so sad because she can do it without this. Like, she can make enough money and, like, it just made me sad. But anyway, that's where we're at. So thank you all so much for watching. Who do I think is going to win AFP? I don't know. I feel like Michael would have a shot. I think Taylor has a really good shot. Those are the top 2 that I'm seeing. Maybe Turner. I don't know what the reception is like about Turner in the outside world, but I think he could do well. Joseph? I don't know.
I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, I think Michael and Taylor are probably the front runners at this point, but that's just my opinion. So thank you all so much for watching and for being here. We will be back tomorrow for more. So until next time, much love. Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye.